Okay, I'm back. Everything working? Seems like it. Cool. So last week we did Druid. Generally had a good time with it. I was surprised actually. We had a lot to talk about with it because even though it doesn't have a lot of subclasses, I had a lot to talk about with them because I knew them quite most of them a lot. Generally, I think the TLDR on this was that there was only like one that I didn't really like. Fighter, as you can see, has a couple more. And I'm not as intimate with fighter um, as I am druid and cleric, so I don't think there'll be as much insight, quote unquote, um, for this. Anyway, let's start this off. Okay, first one's arcane archer. Love this idea, thematic, like in concept. The idea of you being kind of like Green Arrow and Hawkeye, but instead of having trick arrows, it's more like magic arrows. I think that's a really cool idea. Um, I don't know if I agree with this restriction of it really only being an elf thing, but what can you do? Um, you don't really need to care about this normally. So let's look at the abilities. At third level, you learn magical theory or some of the secrets of nature, typically from for practitioners of this elven martial tradition. You choose to gain a proficiency either in arcane or nature, and you choose to learn either prestidigitation or druidcraft. Now, I think the logic here is you can sort of flavour it as you being kind of like Ranger Light, as in you've learned stuff from like the Fae and nature about magic and how to use it, but you're not to the level of to a ranger level. Or you could flavour it as you've been in the wizarding schools and you've learned like generally how to use magic infused into arrows. I like it. I like it as a concept. It's a little ability. It's not the main ability, but it's always nice to have these little flavorful abilities. Arcane Shot. At third level, you learn to unleash a special magical effect with some of your shots. When you gain this feature, you learn two arcane shot options of your choice. Once per turn, when you fire an arrow from a short bow or long bow as part of the attack action, notably can't use a crossbow or any sort of gun if you've added that, so it's not all ranged weapons. You can apply one of the arcane shot options to that arrow. You decide to use the option when the arrow hits a creature, which I really like because it means you can't just put arcane put your like banishing arrow say onto a like a spell onto an arrow and then it just miss and do nothing. Unless the roll doesn't involve an attack roll. You have two uses of this ability, you gain all of them on a short or long rest. I think this would be a lot better in situations where there were a lot of short rests. The problem I brought this up before in other reviews, well, not review, rambling things. I'm not good. Well, our group is not very good at having long rests. So that, to me, lowers this ability by a decent amount. But I'm going to try and be a bit unbiased about it. You get an additional arcane shot option when you hit 7th, 10th, 15th, and 18th. And also, they all improve when you hit 18th. Let's have a look at some of the options. The options. You got the banishing arrow I mentioned before. You hit a creature, they make a charisma save. If they fail, they're banished. Um, the big thing about this is it's not the banishment. It seems like it's the banishment spell, but I don't think it doesn't necessarily. It isn't necessarily the banish spell. It's a weaker version of it because um It banishes them, but it only banishes them until the end of their next turn. Also, notably, if they're in a situation where they're like a being from a different realm, banishment would say, oh, if you kept them there for a minute, they're just banished permanently. But this just says they come back next turn. Also, when you reach 18th level in this class, it does some extra damage on it. Decent ability. It'll come up occasionally. Occasionally, you just want to get rid of an enemy for a turn, so you can focus on something else. Also, it's useful to get people out of combat with people. Next is the beguiling arrow. You hit the creature hit by an arrow takes extra 2d6 psychic damage, so a little bit of buff to damage. And then you choose one ally within 30 feet of the target. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, or is charmed by the chosen ally. The effect ends. It has the charm effect of it ends early if they deal damage or forced to make a saving throw. And at 18th level, it increases to 4d6, so you just add an extra 2d6. That seems to be the general consensus on all of these, as they add just another 2d6 damage. This one's interesting because it's the charm effect, but notably you can make it so that someone charms a different player is the target of the charm instead of you, which is interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not going to have much to say about them because they're all very similar. And they're all interesting in some capacity. I think Banishment 1 has a lot of uses, so does this Beguiling Arrow. I haven't found one where I don't think I'd be using it at all if I was playing it. Bursting Arrow. You imbued your arrow with energy drawn from evocation. The energy detonates after you attack. Merely after the arrow hits the creature, the target and all creatures within 10 feet take 2d6 force damage each, and increases to 4d6 later. This is very good. With the banishing and the beguiling arrow, I think you gotta be in specific situations for them to sort of have a use. And I feel like there is some restrictions to them, although you will find uses in my opinion. Bursting arrow, on the other hand, almost constantly you're going to be dealing with a load of enemies, and you're going to be dealing with a load of enemies that probably will group up. And this you hit somebody, and there's 2 enemies near it. You're hitting somebody, and you're using one of these to give yourself 66 extra damage. That's pretty big. Enfeebling arrow. This is the necromantic one. They get hit for an extra 2d6 necrotic. The target also makes a constitution saving throw, or the damage dealt by its weapon attack is halved until the start of its next turn. That's huge. I mean, later on, that's really good. There are some problems with it in the sense that I feel like Con is one of those stats that is normally going to be high on your boss, almost always. But the fact that you could hit them with this, and you can make, if they fail, which there's a chance they fail, they could have it where, like, okay, maybe they're really dexterous, right? Maybe you're fighting this elite, like dual wielding duelist that's like the best in the world, and maybe their con isn't the highest, and then they fail, and then it's like, however many attacks they get on this big boss, they're all halved. That's huge to me. That is a huge, like, potential, like, I guess the word is like survivability thing, because this means that there's a chance a decently good chance that what would have killed you doesn't kill you. Now, it is only weapon attacks, so if you're dealing with a wizard who would actually normally have low con, it won't really matter because they'll probably be casting spells. But I think that's going to be one of those ones where, although it's not going to be as useful as, say, the bursting arrow, or it won't get like it won't have as I don't think it'll be as useful as the banishing and beguiling. When it comes up, it will fundamentally change a battle. Then we have the grasping arrow. It's the conjuration one. It produces poisonous brambles which wrap around the target. Deals an extra 2d6 poison damage. Bad damage. I've constantly said this. Its speed's reduced by 10, and it takes 2d6 slashing damage the first time on each of its turns that it moves 1 foot or more without teleporting. The target or any creature that can reach it can use an action to remove it with a successful strength save. That is the most powerful one I've seen at the moment. And it's weird because it has the word poison damage there, right? But it's like they realised it. And this is rare because I don't think they normally realise that poison damage is bad. But it's like they realised it with this arrow. Because I'm not caring about the extra poison damage. If that goes through, it goes through. I don't care. The fact that this is you don't saving throw for this. And it not only lowers the speed. Which, whatever, like, that's not a huge deal. It just adds that extra 2d6 slashing damage every time it moves. Most of the time, they're not going to have teleporting. So it's just like every turn they take 2d6 damage until they use an action. And realistically, a lot of the time they're going to succeed. Maybe not on a wizard or something, but maybe wizards would have some form of teleportation. You never know. But what I think is quite useful about this is if you're a big like scary bruiser who like attacks with loads of like weapon attacks, you're probably not actually going to be wanting to waste a turn just to get rid of this like tiny bit of damage that you're probably barely even noticing, and it's not even really changing your health down much. It could do 2 damage, but it adds up over a minute. Even if it only does 2 damage, which realistically it's never going to, that's still 20 damage. And you're getting this at like level 3. You have a spell that over time does 20 damage at level 3 is pretty decent, especially on a martial class. Yeah, in my opinion, that's the best one. Next you have the transmutation arrow, which gives it an ethereal quality, so ghostly. When you use this option, you don't make an attack roll for the attack. Instead, it shoots off in a line. Each creature in the line must succeed on a dex save. On a failed save, a creature takes damage as if they were hit by the arrow, plus an extra 1d6 piercing. On success, they take half as much. So it's kind of like a lightning bolt. It's like a line spell, except it's not a spell. And it's one of those ones that you take half when you, even if you succeed, which I think is quite cool. Yeah, I can see this one being used a decent amount. Like the bursting arrow, any sort of AoE that you get is very powerful because what it does is, everyone you're hitting with this, it's like you've taken an extra turn to shoot them with your arrow. Except it guarantees hits. A guaranteed hit, and you get this little bit of extra damage. I think it's very good. Seeking arrow. This is the divination magic one. When you use this option, you don't make an attack roll for the attack. Instead, choose one creature you've seen in the past minute. The arrow flies towards them, moving around corners and ignoring 3/4 and half cover. The target is within weapon range, and there is a path long enough for the arrow to travel to that target, the target must succeed on a dex saving throw. Otherwise, the arrow disappears after travelling as far as it can. On a failed save, the target takes damage as if it was hit by the arrow, plus an extra d6 force damage. And you learn their location. Like success, they take half as much and you don't learn their location. I could see this being useful if you have somebody that's trying to sort of leave. They've decided maybe they're a rogue or maybe they're a magician of some kind, or like a lot of hags probably do this. They know they're going to lose. They go invisible. They run out. Living to fight another day. And then you just go, okay, I use my seeking arrow. I've seen them before. Goes around the corner, hits them. Maybe they fail the dex saving throw. Maybe they don't. They still have to make a concentration check on their invisibility. And then you just have it where it's like, well, they've lost their invisibility and they now can't, successfully run away. And I know their location. So right around this corner, guys, get him. That's a very useful ability. I think it's very similar to the enfeebling arrow, in the sense that I don't believe it will be useful as much in general. But the one time it is useful, it'll literally change the way an outcome of a boss fight. Very similar to the enfeebling one. And then finally there's the illusion arrow, the shadow arrow. The creatures hit by the arrow take an extra 2d6 psychic damage, and must succeed on a wisdom save, or be unable to see anything further than 5 feet away until the start of their next turn. That's very good. I think this could be very interesting, especially if you put this on someone, mainly like magic casters and ranged combatants. The ones that sort of want to be far away from enemies, or they want to be, healing them, casting spells on other people from far away. This one goes, well, you can't even see in front of you. And specifically, it's you can't see anything further than 5 feet away, and it specifically says, it doesn't specifically state that like it's darkness or something. So it means that even if they have true sight, there's a chance this just works on them, unless there's something I'm missing, which is huge. That could like make it so that a boss's turn is them effectively doing nothing. As long as your DM is alright with sort of playing it off like how they actually would, and not like a DM that can actually see everything, if you know what I mean. Overall, third level abilities, they're really good. I think the only problem I can see with them at this point is they don't scale very well. This is the only thing at this point you're getting. There could be other things here, but based on what I've seen of the ability and the fact it's the 18th level ability is probably just going to be improving these, and looking at this list, a lot of the options are just, have an additional arcane shot. I worry that unless you get a load of them, you are just going to sort of fall behind, realistically. 7th level. At 7th level, you gain the ability to infuse arrows with magic. Whenever you fire a non-magical arrow from a short bow or long bow, you can make it magical for the purposes of overcoming resistance and immunities to non-magical attacks and damage. It immediately fades after it hits or misses its target. Cool ability, realistically, at least in my opinion, and in my experience, a lot of the time you will already have a version of that. You already have a magical bow or something that turns magical, so it doesn't really come up too much. At 7th level, you'll have learned how to direct an errant arrow towards a new target. When you make an attack roll with the magic arrow and you miss, you can use a bonus action to re-roll the attack roll against a different target within 60 feet. I like that ability. It just goes like, oh, I miss this person. Well, I guess I shoot this person. Um, I like that narratively. I think it works very well. I think it's cool ability. No problem with that ability. I think Magic Arrow, I now understand it a bit more because they're trying to make sure that no matter what happens, you can use the second ability. But it is sort of a useless ability, but I understand why they put it there now. 10th level ability is just another arcane shot. There was one of those for the 7th as well. I'm not going to mention them. 15th level ability, the last ability that isn't just arcane shot ones. Starting at 15th level, your magical archery is available whenever a battle starts. If you roll initiative and you have no uses of arcane shot remaining, you gain 1 use. Very useful. See, a lot of classes that get this kind of stuff will get an ability like this. Almost all monks get it. I think it might be a base monk ability, in fact. You'll get it with a lot of like subclasses that add them. I quite like it. It means you have some use even if you haven't had time to short rest between battle. Get another shot, and then this one, yeah, all it says is it just improves all of them. I think my biggest problem with Arcane Archer is you have 2. You always have 2. It never goes up. You get more options for it, but you only ever have 2. And 2 is not a lot. And in addition, I don't feel like they scale very well. It goes from 2d6 that you'll have for, realistically, most of your campaign, and then when you barely get to 18th level, and people are getting super abilities, you go up, you double the damage, sure, but that's not that much. It's not huge. Overall, I like it conceptually. I think I would definitely play it. It gives you that option of having other things you can do. I think the biggest problem with the subclass is the fact that it doesn't have enough uses, and you're putting all of your interesting things on the subclass because of how the fighter is, that it doesn't feel like you're going to have enough. But that's not a problem with the subclass, it's a problem with the fighter, where it doesn't get any cool abilities. But this overall, a decent subclass. Battle Master. Now this is the one that I've mentioned before as what I think a lot of people. I don't think it's just me. I've seen it a fair amount, and it's definitely true for my group. They feel like these maneuvers that you get from the Battle Master that we'll see soon should just be a base fighter mechanic. It should just be stuff they can get so they have interesting things to do. So, Battlemaster. At 3rd level, you gain proficiency in an artisanal tool of your choice. Sort of going with the idea of a samurai before the samurai came out. So you've become so good with your blade that you consider it like an art form, and so you've got other art forms that you're interested in. Then you've got combat superiority. When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, you learn maneuvers that are fueled by special die called superiority die. You learn 3 maneuvers of your choice, which are listed under the maneuver map. You learn 2 additional at 7th, 10th, and 15th. Each time you learn a new maneuver, you can replace one of your maneuvers with a different maneuver. Now, I've used maneuver a lot that sentence, but you're going to hear that a lot. You can also only use 1 maneuver per attack. You have 4 superiority die, which notably, I know this is obvious, but it's already double what you get for the Arcane Archer, which I think is notable. And you still get the back of a short rest. Also, you gain more at 7th and 15th. So already, when you are realizing now that like this seems better. You get more uses of them. Now the abilities might not be as good, but at least you're doing something extra. I don't know. Let me have a look at them. Commander Strike. When you take the attack shot, when you take the attack action on your turn, you can forego one of your attacks and use a bonus action to direct one of your companions to strike. When you do, choose a friendly creature you can see or hear. You expend 1 superiority die. That creature can use its reaction to make 1 weapon attack, adding the superiority die to the attack damage. Notably, superiority die are d8s. So already this ability is comparable, not better because a d8 is worse than 2d6, but comparable to the Arcane Archer. Slightly less damage. But what's really good about Commander Strike that I always bring up when I look at it is most of the time a weapon attack action is not going to be significantly better than yours. Might be like an extra damage more, right? Not huge. Maybe if you have a barbarian in your group, it'll be different. But generally, not huge. This one is different because it says like there's one exception to this, and I will get to it in a second. But I just need to go to the toilet. So let's just quickly do this. I'll be back in a sec. Hello? Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. Anyway, as I was saying, Commander Strike, what's really good about Commander Strike is the fact that a rogue can do this. And because it's a new turn for them, even if they've used their sneak attack on a different turn, you can do their sneak attack again. So that's very useful about the Commander Strike. Other than that, using it on maybe a barbarian. I think their rage. I don't know if their rage would still be on, which is the one that gives them advantage, because I think based on the 5e rules at the moment, the rage is not still on. But as of the Unearthed Arcana that they're doing, it would still be on, which would be useful. Overall, just getting that extra damage is always good too. You could put it on a paladin actually, and they could use their smite. It's useful. Disarming attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you spend one of your superiority die to disarm the target, forcing it to drop one of its items of your choice that it's holding. You can add the superiority dice to the attack damage roll. The target must succeed on the strength save, but on failed save, it drops the object you choose. The object lands at its feet. This is very useful because what you can do is in situations where you're fighting a boss that uses a weapon, there's a situation you can do where you go, okay, I try and knock it out of its hand. If I succeed, my friend on his turn picks the weapon up. Now you got a situation where you're in a situation where they no longer have their weapon, and so that means that you can hit them. You know, their damage will at least be down a bit, because I mean they probably have some form of special weapon if you're at least later on in the campaign. But if you're not later on, having them not have a weapon means that they're stuck to punching. They might have a backup weapon, but the later you get on in the campaign, the more likely that the weapon they had in their hand is some named weapon, and whatever weapon they have as a backup weapon is at least weakened in some capacity. Evasive footwork. When you move, you can expend one superiority die, rolling the die and adding the number rolled to your AC until you stop moving. My reading of that implies that it's used for getting out of, like, making it harder for you to get hit with attacks of opportunity, which I think is useful. But abilities like this that have come up in other subclasses, where it makes it less easy for you to get hit when you move out of attack of opportunity, I always just think back to the rogue and how the rogue can just bonus action do that, or the monk that can just key point get out of there without even getting hit once, not even the chance of them getting hit. And I always then just feel like these abilities aren't great. Now admittedly, this isn't just the only bit of the feature. You have other things you can do with it, which makes this better, but I definitely think that's the worst of the ones we've seen at the moment. Fating attack. You can expend one superiority die and use a bonus action on your turn to faint. Choose one creature within 5 feet of you as your target. You have advantage on your next attack roll against the creature this turn. The attack hits. The superiority die. Add the superiority die to the attack damage roll. So it's a way of giving yourself advantage. Okay, that's useful. It'll come up. I mean, if you need to get a hit in on a boss, like it's a climactic moment, the fact that you can get yourself advantage is always good. This to me is you're getting the extra damage. It's nothing fancy, but you will use it occasionally when you're like, okay, we need to get this damage in. Goading attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend one superiority die to attempt to goad the target into attacking you. You add the superiority die to the attack damage roll, and your target must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target has disadvantage on all attack rolls against targets other than you until the end of your turn. This is the way they sort of do tanking in D&D, it seems. Well, it's not necessarily they have to hit you, it's that they have disadvantage to hit you. I think a lot of the time you'll find situations where, at least later on, where this won't matter, that they have disadvantage because they have such high to hits that if they're trying to hit somebody like the wizard or the sorcerer or effectively anyone who doesn't want to be front line, they're just going to hit no matter really what they roll. Like, they might even be in situations where if they roll a 2, they still hit. But I think it's good for early game. I think it allows you to make sure that your spellcaster can get that one spell off that might win the game. Beat the boss. Lunging attack. When you make a weapon attack on your turn, you can expend 1 superiority die to increase your reach for that attack by 5 feet. If you hit, you add a superiority die to the attack roll damage. Notably about these abilities, compared to the Arcane Archer we saw before, is that these ones, at least some of them seem to, yeah, like this lunging attack one, isn't on hit, it's you make an attack. So there is some slight differences. The others seem to be when you hit, but this one it's different. Overall, having that little bit of extra reach is interesting. It won't come up too much. The only advantage you might be getting is that you might not be within threat range of it, so it might not be able to attack you next turn. But a lot of the time, they can just move and then attack you. Like, it doesn't change too much. Maneuvering attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to maneuver one of your comrades into a more advantageous position. You add the superiority die to the attack's damage roll, and you choose a friendly creature who can see or hear you. That creature can use this reaction to move up to half its speed without provoking attacks of opportunity from the target of your attack. You hit them, and then someone near you can run away because you've given them like they're distracted looking at you. I can see the use there if they've sneaked past your front line, or maybe they've tried to ambush you. You're in a situation the wizard's in melee combat, the place it doesn't want to be. You appear, you maneuver attack, you give them this ability, they use their reaction, they move back. Now you're in combat with them, the wizard isn't, and it can cast its spells freely from far away. Menacing attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to attempt to frighten the target. You add the superiority die to the attack damage roll. Yeah, that's the thing with all of them. Well, most of them. Make a wisdom save, and on a failed, it's frightened. Okay. This, I don't think it's going to come up too much, because the frightened status, a lot of things get immunity to that. And I'm not even talking late game. I'm talking just in general, a lot of things get immunity to frightened. So, I don't know if I rate this particularly highly. Parry. When another creature damages you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to expend 1 superiority die to reduce the damage equal to your superiority die plus dex modifier. Okay, that can be useful if you very, very, very much need it. I can see the use in this. I think a lot of the time you'll just take the damage and you'll use that superiority die to do more damage back. Unless you're in a situation where you might die. Precision attack. When you make a weapon attack roll against a creature, you can expend a superiority die to add. Yep. You can use this maneuver before, after making the attack roll, but before any effects of the attack are applied. I'm a bit confused here, because this to me seems like the other things, just without any additional effects. I don't understand the point in this. Because this one here, Distracting Strike, you expend a superiority die, you make them do a strength save, on a fail they lose the thing. Okay. But this one here, it does the damage, but it also has an extra thing. I'm not sure about this precision attack. Pushing attack. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to attempt to drive the enemy back. You add superiority die to that attack damage. Again, this just seems better than precision attack, unless I'm missing anything. Must make a strength saving throw. On a failed, you push the target up to 15 feet from you. This one won't come up a lot, but when you're in a situation where there's like a cliff behind them, or you're on a, like you're on a boat, or in a situation where you can, if you push them, you gain some advantage. This will come up. It just won't always be useful. Rally. On your turn, you can use your bonus action to expend 1 superiority die to bolster the resolve of your companions. When you do, choose a friendly creature who can see or hear you. To gain 10 hit points equal to superiority die plus charisma. I like this because it's using charisma, even though charisma is not necessarily needed, because it makes sense because you're rallying them. I think it's useful. I don't know how much it'll come up. Like generally, but when it does come up, having a little bit of extra health, that means that maybe they don't die from an enemy, which means they get another turn, is useful. The fact is a bonus action is useful because it means that you can do this and not get rid of your attack on that turn. I don't know how much it comes up. I think this one might be, other than precision attack, the one that comes up the least amount of time. But it's not a bad ability. That's why I say it's useful. It's not a bad ability. Riposte. When a creature misses you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to expend 1 superiority die to make a melee attack against the creature, and add the superiority die to the attack damage. That's really cool. Just gives you this little extra attack. It's going to be really useful early game, less useful later game when you already have a load of attacks. Because early game, this could be doubling the amount of attacks you get. Later game, it might be adding, an extra third onto it. Sweeping attack. When you hit a creature with a melee attack, expend a superiority die to attempt to damage another creature with the same attack. Choose another creature within 5 feet of the original target and is within your reach. If the original attack roll would hit, the second creature, it takes damage equal to the number you roll on the superiority die. So you hit somebody, you expend the superiority die, and you get to put a little bit more damage onto the other person if this attack hits. Okay, that's useful. It's not incredibly useful. It's not going to come up super often, but it's useful. Slip attack. When you hit a creature, you expend you spend a die. You add the superiority die to damage. Okay. If the target is large or smaller, it makes a strength save, and is knocked prone. Prone's very useful. Because prone means you get advantage on melee attacks, which means that your subsequent friends can also do stuff. Now these are all the baseline ones. I think these ones are options that were added in Tasha's, if I remember correctly. Does that say Tasha's? Yeah. Because notably, what they also added was a feat you could take, so you could get maneuvers. Just maneuvers no matter what you were. Right, I'm just going to. Do I double check? Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to double check to see. Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to double check to see if it worked. You're double for me then, just for a second. Cool. It's all working. Anyway, ambush. When you make a dexterity stealth check, which notably I haven't seen a lot of fighters that were particularly good at stealth, but it is a way you can make the character. Um, you can expend one superiority die. Oh, or initiative roll, which is useful. And you add that die to your roll. Very useful. Adding it to your initiative just to make sure you go first can come up in a lot of situations, especially if a fight's technically started but your mission is maybe to kill or apprehend a specific target that is trying to run away. Making sure. Hmm. I'm fine, thank you. I don't particularly want to be promoted. I'm just doing this as like a hobby kind of thing. But thank you for the offer. Bait and switch. When you're within 5 feet of a creature on your turn, you can expand one superiority die and switch places with that creature, provided you spend at least 5 feet of movement and the creature is willing and is incapacitated. This movement doesn't provoke attack of opportunities. Okay, so this seems like a better version of the distracting attack that we saw earlier, whereas before it was like you get they get disadvantage on attacking the person that tries to move away. This one just says they don't provoke attack of opportunities. But this one doesn't. This one switches the places of you, which I mean is not as useful as half your speed, right? Most of the time, unless for some reason your speed was like 10, which is unlikely. But you also get a bonus to AC. I should have continued to read, which was that is quite useful actually. I quite like that ability. A lot of time I feel like I'll be using bait and switch more than I'll be using distracting attack. Brace. When a creature you can see moves into the reach you have with the melee weapon you're wielding, you can use your reaction to expend a superiority die and make one attack against the creature using that weapon. If it hits, you add the superiority die's damage. Okay, this is very useful, especially if you've gone for the strategy of going like pole-armed weaponry that give you increased reach. If you're a bugbear, you'll have increased reach. So that maybe they aren't even particularly going for you, but you just get that quick attack in, so that maybe you defeat the enemy before it gets to your friends. Commanding presence. When you make a charisma intimidation or a charisma performance or a charisma persuasion, you can expand one superiority die and add the superiority die to the ability check. So it's giving you a couple more like out of combat abilities, which I quite like, especially with how many points you have compared to Arcane Archer. If I was doing Arcane Archer, I would be in the situation where I wouldn't want to use them because I only have two, so I'd be using half of them for an out of combat thing when they're mostly in combat stuff. But with four, it becomes increasingly like, okay, I can spend one of those. It's only a quarter of what I have, and later on, it's only a sixth of what I have. Grappling strike. Immediately after you make a weapon attack on your turn, you can expend a superiority die and try and grapple. And then you add your superiority die to the strength check. Useful grappling. I'm not a big fan of grappling, but I have a friend who really likes making grappling characters, and so there is some use to it, and I quite like them. I don't think I'd get much use out of this ability, but I could see the use behind it. Quick toss. As a bonus action, you spend one of your superiority die, make a ranged attack with a weapon that has the thrown property. You can draw the weapon as part of making the attack. If it hits, add the superiority die. Okay, just you're allowed to do a quick ranged weapon attack. Bonus action makes it quite useful. The fact that it can like be a dart or something like that, it's very useful. You know, it can be anything like a dagger, probably a dagger most of the time, just maybe to finish off another enemy. It's quite useful. Tactical assessment. When you make an intelligence, investigation, history, insight, or wisdom insight check, you can expand a superiority die. So it's just another one of those commanding presence ones. It's quite useful. I think it's quite cool to have out of combat stuff, as I said before. But yeah, just one of those out of combat ones. Overall, just this ability, you get a load of them. There's loads of like a load of different abilities. You get a load of superiority die that you can use. They come back as a short rest. Generally, all of them seem comparable to Arcane Archer in some capacity. I think it's great. I think it's great, honestly. Um, yeah, I've got no complaints. 7th level. You get 2 more additional maneuvers. Not bad, not good. But it's not the only thing you get. You also get an additional superiority die. So now you've immediately, at 7th level, you've got 5 of them now. I mean, that's like you've you've got double what the Arcane Archer is, plus an extra one. In addition, you have this ability called Know Your Enemy, which I will get to in a second. I'm sorry about this. I just really need to go to the toilet again. Sorry about this. Sorry, I'm gonna have to stop it here. Sorry, guys. Bye.